Hi, and welcome to my very first YouTube video. If you follow me on Instagram, you might already know who I am, but if not, hello there. You can call me Rabia, and I am a young and passionate artist. Just to let you guys know, I might not post on this YouTube channel that often, and will mainly just be using this channel to share work that can't fully be explained in detail or shown in a small Instagram post. So if you're new with following me and you like my work, my Instagram is in the description if you're interested. Anyways, some of you might know that I've recently joined an animation course specifically for teenagers. I also attached the link below if you're interested. I posted some of the work I did for the summer semester on my Instagram. However, during the fall semester, I've been assigned to create 2 original character designs for our semester project, which is basically a 20-second animation scene. I know I wanted to base my semester project off of my own story that I've been building for quite some time called my storybook. I know it sounds really simple, but it'll make sense later. My storybook is a project I'm hoping to turn into a novel with illustrations one day. And so after I worked on these character designs for the 2 main characters, I thought it would be a great opportunity to share some of my work with you guys. Before we begin, let's just ignore the fact that I finished drawing the second main character before the protagonist, but it was mainly just because I already kind of knew what I wanted for the second main character. Another thing I should note is just note that this story is still unfinished and things may or may not change in the future. Anyways, with that said, let's get into the video. As the recording plays, let me talk about the main premise of the story and our protagonist, Anne. My storybook follows Anne, a 16-year-old young story writer who dreams of becoming a great author one day. However, not many people buy her work, and she kind of has this idea of becoming this great, grandiose story writer of all time, and to write this great, grandiose story of all time. And so this leads Anne to believe that she must make sure every single one of her stories is perfect, and every single sentence she writes must be absolutely, like spot on. And she must follow what other people want rather than what she wants to write about. And so this kind of leads her to become terrified of writing the stories that she loves in the first place, and almost giving up on writing altogether. However, that all changes when, after a long day of running around to find someone to publish her book, she decides to write a new book from scratch, seeing that no one seems interested in her current project. Anne started to write word by word of the first draft of this chapter, and pieced all the tiny figments of her imagination while she wrote down her ideas. She let her pen go wild and her imagination run free, but when she finished, out of the fear that her story was just not perfect enough, she immediately told herself it's terrible, without even looking too much into it. She loses hope and goes to bed, but when she wakes up, she finds herself in her own story, and the book basically follows her trying to find her way back to the real world with the help of her own original characters, while learning that making mistakes is okay and that she shouldn't let the fear of making mistakes stop her from doing something that she loves. And yeah, that's the main premise of the story. Anne is a very organized, critical, cautious, perfectionist, and hard-working person. Before I started drawing Anne, I kind of already had a vision of what I wanted her to look like. If you saw my post regarding the animation course I did this summer, you might notice that I did create a few sketches of Anne. Before the course, I also drew a sketch of her in my sketchbook. Designing Anne, I really liked the way I drew her hair in the sketch, and I knew I wanted to have it in the final design since I think it really shows off her personality. It also might not be as noticeable, but I did try my best to follow a triangular kind of sharp-shaped motif, which is part of the reason why I decided to give her a V sweater vest and like a skirt, as well as her current hairstyle. I also decided to give her a headband and glasses because I thought it would look pretty nice on her. And so, yeah. Now, I kind of want to talk a little bit about Anne's storybook a bit more. So, when I mentioned things about the next character, you guys kind of know what's going on. So Anne's story basically takes place in this steampunk fantasy and also oceanic setting in a way, in a place called the Isles of Clouds. The Isles of Clouds is a magical place with a collection of these cloud islands with a big ocean throughout the world underneath them. Some notable isles that are in the story include the Isles of Mangroves, well known for its clockwork and machinery, the Oceanic Isle, or just the Mermaid Isle as humans call it, for its diverse marine life and legends, and the Isle of Dreams. The Isle of Dreams is a legend said to hold the Castle of Dreams. The legend states that only those with the legendary stone may enter the isle, and those who do will find 2 wishes to be granted. Many have tried to enter the isle, but none can without the stone. The Isle of Dreams almost has this invisible magical force field that prohibits anyone from just, flying in without the stone. As for where the stone is located, many have tried to look for it, but till this very day, no one has. And Anne has created a couple of characters in her story, but I won't be mentioning all of them as for now. For the expressions and poses I decided to draw Anne in, I decided to just mainly show her maybe holding a book and, maybe jotting her ideas down, maybe thinking about things, as well as, her maybe on her desk and she's thinking about her ideas like, I don't know, like maybe she's contemplating, deciding. For the third expression, I decided to kind of draw her, stressfully trying to make the story sound right, I suppose. For Anne's variations, they're more of outfits that she might wear throughout the story. The first variation is just basically the current outfit that she's wearing, so yeah. The second variation is actually a outfit that she'll be wearing for when she enters her storybook. Anne's storybook basically takes place in this steampunk fantasy setting, and before this variation, this is what I kind of had in mind for her. I mean, it's not that, but eventually I eventually ended up redrawing the outfit in the same sketchbook, and I really liked what I came up with. and I think it matches the steampunk fantasy setting much better. So yeah, and I also gave her, adventuring boots, since she's going to be, running around and stuff. For the third variation, I don't know, I was just honestly out of ideas, but I can just generally see Anne wearing this as well. For Anne's color palette, I really see her in like blue and red for some reason. I don't know why, but I think it looks really nice on her. But yeah, doing this was a very fun assignment. This is probably one of my favorite assignments that I did so far in the animation course. Doing this was really, really fun, and yeah, I had really fun designing Anne, and overall I'm pretty happy with how the design turned out. So let me know what you guys think. And that's Anne. Okay, so I actually created a couple of sketches for this character multiple times before drawing her here, and you might seen one of them on my Instagram. But anyhow, meet Agnes. Agnes is one of Anne's original characters, or is she my original character? I don't even know at this point. But anyhow, Agnes is an adventurer of the Isles who goes on many adventures on her father's boat blimp. She's a jolly, optimistic, friendly, and sometimes reckless 28-year-old woman. I feel like Agnes would be the kind of person to develop a bunch of random hobbies while traveling and adventuring on her blimp. Other than adventuring, such as like playing an instrument, making outfits, and just fishing. I don't know. I thought that would be kind of cool. When Agnes was a child, she grew up on a blimp with her father, since Agnes's father was an adventurer too. Her dad usually kept her from going on much more dangerous expeditions in which Agnes dreamt of going on. However, she and her father still had many fond memories going on many adventures together. Agnes's dad always hoped that he could find the castle of dreams, which might help make life better for him, and most especially for his beloved daughter. One day, he wrote a note for Agnes and set out to find the stone of the Castle of Dreams on his own. However, he never came back. Regardless, Agnes still remains an optimistic ray of sunshine, sometimes trying to hide the fact that she misses her father from other people, hoping that if she finds the stone one day and enters the legendary castle, she can find her father and ask him something. And yeah, that's Agnes. As for how Agnes meets Anne, Anne basically enters her world in the ocean and almost drowns at first. However, that also happens to be where Agnes is doing some fishing until she ends up saving her. Anne is confused about where she is at first until she realizes that she's in her storybook. And Anne tells Agnes that she isn't from here and just wants to find her way back home. But Agnes just assumes that Anne is from the very far other side of the world, outside of the Isles. Now, as for this part of the story, I'm honestly still working and thinking about it, but it goes along the lines of Anne has come into her world with the legendary stone, and Agnes makes a deal to help Anne get to the legendary castle in order to get back to wherever she assumes she came from, in exchange for one wish in return. And so the both of them go on this journey in order to reach the legendary castle. Agnes, I guess, acts as this foil for Anne in a way, being this older supportive mentor figure and helping Anne learn to overcome her perfectionism throughout the journey with her. For Agnes, I knew I wanted to base her off of the most recent sketches I did before drawing her here. I tried to incorporate squares throughout her design, such as in her hair as well as her goggles. I should probably mention that something new I added was the goggles in her design, so it could be more clear that she owns like a boat blimp, I suppose. I also kind of touched up her sword, and for her sword I also tried to make it a little bit more unique to her by giving it her signature feather, and I imagine that it would be a sword that her father gave her to use when she would be old enough to hold it with her name carved on it. For her variations, the first one is just the current design, and the third one is probably just for when she's resting or if the weather is a little bit warmer. And for the one in the middle, I don't know, I guess I was just seeing what else she could probably wear, but I kind of feel like it makes her look like a mad scientist because of the goggles and the longer coat. So yeah. For Agnes's poses, I suppose, again, I based the first one off of the pose I drew of her in that original sketch, and so I kind of drew over it so that way I could really get the same, I guess, feeling to that pose. For the rest of the poses, I wanted to draw, Agnes in a more like what's going on here expression, I suppose. And for the other one, I just drew her, maybe she's agreeing to something and she's like, all right, let's go. Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with Agnes as well. She's probably one of my favorite designs that I've created, maybe, perhaps. But anyways, that's all for Agnes. I'm really happy with how her design turned out, and I'm pretty proud of it as well. Well, that's pretty much it for my very first video. Please let me know your guys' thoughts, or if you have any suggestions or feedback to give. And thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.